Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Saturday, January 17th, 2026, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can, Cash App $, ORION-NWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got the NFC Divisional Playoffs, San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. You can't ask for a better matchup. Kickoff is going to be here in just a minute or two, so let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for the NFC Divisional Playoff matchup. Let's get it, baby. Doug Baldwin raising the flag there in Seattle. And on the thumbnail on the left, we got the best running back in the game, Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey, as far as all-around ability. And on the right, one of the best wide receivers this season in JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Can't wait to be able to see what we get here, and we are just about to get going. SGC in the building, what's good? First game went into overtime, if you weren't watching the Bills and the Broncos, so that's why this game got delayed by about 20 minutes. Seahawks with a nice kick, going down the sideline. Go, baby, go! And Rashid Shaheed is going to score, but there was a flag on the play, and I think it's coming back. But again, it shows you the type of effort, Rashid Shaheed can give you, not only when he was on the Saints, but also he's been the X factor for the Seahawks on special teams. Wow. Blue Jay in the building. What's good? Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. I assume there was a illegal block in the back, somewhere around that, 30-yard line, 25, 20-yard line. You saw the flag come out, but I assume that will be coming back. Yeah. Well, the reason that they don't do 2 playoff games at the same time, so that way that everyone can watch at the same time, so everyone that is invested in the first game, that, you don't miss out on the beginning of the next game. That's why they do that. Wow. Touchdown is confirmed. Wow. Tripping. Oh, okay. Number 18, the kicker actually was the person that was Eddie Pinheiro was charged with the penalty, but Rashid Shaheed showing that he can get the job done, and just right out of the gates, special teams touchdown. And usually when you get a special teams touchdown, a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown, more times than not, 90% chance of winning the game or higher once you get a big play like that. And to get the play to happen on the first play of the game, unbelievable. Great job there. Yeah, and you got to also understand, SGC, even if you're excited to watch the Seahawks, most people that are NFL fans are watching both. You're not just choosing one game or the next. Obviously, there are going to be some people that only watch one, but for a lot of us diehards, we're watching both games on both days, including the Natty on Monday. Great job there by Rashid Shaheed. And again, if they didn't pick him up from the Saints, they're not in this position. And again, sometimes being able to get that home run threat on special teams, Seattle really hasn't had that before. And again, to be able to have a guy that's been this impactful since coming over from the Saints, huge, is an understatement. Extra point is up and good. 7-0 Seattle. Great job there by Rashid Shaheed. Third special teams touchdown for Seattle this season. Let's go. And we'll find out if we end up, getting a Seattle-Denver rematch in the Super Bowl. Could happen. Denver punched its ticket to the AFC Championship game, and they're going to be playing either the Texans or the Patriots, who play tomorrow at noon. And obviously Seattle up 7-0 already on the Niners. Obviously, I'm not surprised, by the score. I am surprised that they were able to score on the first play. And again, I have Seattle obviously winning this game pretty comfortably, and I assume the Rams will be able to win the game as well against the Bears. So I feel like the AFC, it's a little bit more even, and it's a little lopsided, even though we know that Sam Darnold's got the oblique injury. But hell, if you're going to be able to get an opening kickoff for a touchdown, sometimes that'll even things out, so to speak. So no, Mariners just weren't good enough. But again, since 2022, we've been getting better and better and better. And, hopefully we'll have our moment for the Mariners at some point. Well, not very many individuals have a player as good as Rashid Shaheed on the team. So, and not only that, you have to be able to maximize your opportunities, which Shaheed has done. Purdy getting fucking blasted. Picked up by Seattle. It's going to be incomplete, but look at the effort by the Seahawks. They're going fucking crazy out there. Emin thinking he got a touchdown. And can you imagine if the score's 14-0 within the first 13 to 19 seconds of the game? Wow. But that's going to be incomplete. Yeah, I mean, even though we didn't get Polo and he wanted to be closer to his dad in New York and went to the Mets, and, we'll see what happens with Geno. I don't think we really can afford him at this point, but we will be buyers at the deadline and, give an opportunity for Ben Williamson and Cole Young and a few of the others to get some playing time, but we definitely need to upgrade the roster still. 2nd down and 10. Purdy towards the sideline, bobbled and caught. Ricky Pearsall on the first play. Juwan Jennings there. I see you. Brock Purdy short left to Juwan Jennings, pushed out of bounds at the San Francisco 44. 3rd down and 6. Thomas there with the coverage for Seattle. With 14 minutes to go in the first quarter, it's already 7-0 Seattle. Yeah, getting Naylor was huge. That was the number one priority, and again, I assume the Blue Jays and Mariners are still going to be two of the best teams in the American League and overall going into next year. 3rd down and 6. Purdy with a little bootleg play action and finding Jake Tongas, since we know George Kittle's season is over, and Tongas has proven that he can step up in moments. 7-yard pass, 1st down, Niners. Move the trains. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. I mean, coming into these playoff games, Seattle looked like the best team in the NFL. But again, it's going to get much harder once they get past San Francisco. Playing the Rams, that's not going to be an easy test. But again, if we get the Seahawks and Rams in the NFC Championship game, that's exactly what we would want as fans. The best two teams going at it in the NFC. And now we got Broncos Pats or Broncos Texans, then that should be pretty good as well. A little bit more of a defensive battle, on that side, on the AFC, but should be very exciting to say the least. McCaffrey up the middle for a 7-yard gain. 2nd down and 3 at the Seattle 42. Brian Robinson off that right side with a 2-yard gain. Devin Witherspoon, the corner, with the tackle. 3rd down and 1 at the Seattle 40. 7-0 Seattle with a Rashid Shaheed opening kickoff for a touchdown. And again, Seattle is a very special team this year. And again, when you end up being one of the best teams on defense, every year that they've been tops in that category, they've been to the Super Bowl. So it kind of feels like this is a team that is destined for the Super Bowl, but you got to get past a couple NFC West foes to get there. Today, the Niners. Next week, the Rams, more than likely. 3rd down and 1, man in motion, handoff up the middle to McCaffrey, and stuffed. What a tackle, Boye Mafe. Wow. Great play there. And Byron Murphy and Nwosu there as well. Byron Murphy, I see you. Nwosu, I see you. So many individuals on this defense making big plays. 4th down and 1. 13 for 17 for 1 to 3 yards for Kyle Shanahan. Shotgun set on 4th down and 1. Purdy looking. And we got a whistle as Juwan Jennings comes up with the first down, but play is dead. And Seattle ends up getting a timeout before the first down. Let them know. And for all the individuals in the room, the regulars and the mods, again, that first stream was a little underwhelming. I figured we would have more people in for that particular game, but I have no regrets. And again, depending on how I feel tomorrow, we'll end up doing both games tomorrow, or we'll skip the Texans-Patriots stream, and we'll definitely be doing Rams and Bears 100%. And then we do the Natty on Monday. So just got to make sure that I have a voice for the Natty on Monday as well as the games for tomorrow. Fourth down and 1. 7-0 Seahawks. Shift at the line. Use check. Going into the backfield. They hand it off to use check, and they flip it. And that is going to be a big stop for Seattle. You can't be playing cute against the Seattle Seahawks like that in their own building. Wow. Seattle looking very energized, even though they had the bye and had the week off. We already seen Denver advance as a 1 seed. And again, Seattle looking very, very stout, very, very motivated. And again, you can't be pulling off some weak-ass trick play like that. Use check to McCaffrey. That ain't going to get the job done. And normally Kyle Shanahan is a very good play caller, but again, he might have met his match on the road here in Seattle. Got JT with a $5 for our first dono on the dono train. Appreciate you. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. We're at 5:95 to go to hit the dono goal. I know, Paisley. I'm sorry, honey. Daddy's got to work. I know normally I'm not working this much. Hold on, honey. JT with a $5 to get us started. Appreciate that. Just had to step out for a second. My pup is, a little impatient right now, just like a lot of the Seattle fans, waiting for the game to start. But starting it off with a bang with a big special teams touchdown by Rashid Shaheed. And again, when you end up having great defense and great special teams, you don't really need your offense to be electric all the time. And again, 7-0 lead, Seattle, they're definitely the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl for the NFC with the Rams. And again, the NFC West was the best division in football. And again, we're going to have a war here between Seattle and San Fran in this playoff matchup. Handoff up the middle to Kenneth Walker III, 4-yard run. Second down and 6 at the Seattle 47. Chief in the building. What's good? Darnold, and he's got the oblique injury, but I don't know if that'll be a factor or not. Nice 8-yard pass from Darnold to Kenneth Walker the third. First down, Seattle. Move the chains. Nothing is rigged, my guy. I mean, we're not talking about college basketball and these people with players and coaches, you know, shaving points and whatnot. There is cheating in sports. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, again, they called timeout before the play happened, not in the middle of the play. And obviously, if you know football, you would know that. Just because it took time for the announcers to get the call from the refs, you know, doesn't mean that the thing is rigged. Darnold incomplete, deep right to JSN, second down and 10 at the San Francisco 45. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really deserve to win that game, you know, with all the turnovers, the fumbles, and the picks, but, you know, it shows you how good Josh Allen and James Cook III are, you know, that even with that many turnovers, they can still, you know, be somewhat competitive. Charbonnet off that left side with a beautiful 15-yard run. First down, Seattle. Move the chains. 12s are very excited about the opportunity here, but again, it's going to get much harder in the next round in the NFC Championship game against the Rams. First game ended in overtime. Big victory for the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix in his sophomore season. Charbonnet dancing and romancing for 4 yards. Renardo Green, the no-name defense for the Niners, with the tackle. Second down and 6 at the San Francisco 26. And again, first spring training game for the Mariners will be February 20th. Then we got Cal Raleigh playing in the World Baseball Classic. And then, obviously, as we get into March, we'll have a lot of Mariner baseball here on the channel. Shotgun set, Darnold, short left to Cooper Kupp. 5-yard gain. Mustafa for the Niners with the stop. Third down and 1 at the San Francisco 21. I mean, if we want to have the best teams, you know, playing in the NFC, AFC championship game, it's definitely Seattle and then the Rams. You know, that's the two that we should get. You know, those are the two best teams in the NFC for a majority of the year for the most part. You know, and obviously the Broncos beat the Bills. And I think that Josh Allen playing the Rams or Seahawks would have made for the best Super Bowl as far as like outsiders looking in. But, you know, Denver, New England, Houston, someone's going to come out of the AFC. And we'll find out if they play against Seattle or the Los Angeles Rams. But it's going to get, you know, very, very tight as we get further and further along into the playoffs. And third down and 1. And looks like they're going to give them the first down. Nice 2-yard run there by A.J. Barner, the tight end that they line up with the direct snap. And that's not something that, you know, they'll do from time to time. First down, Hawks. Move the chains. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to being, you know, the voice of the Seattle Mariners again, you know, moving forward. And, you know, my goal is to do every game of the season besides one. And the only one that I'll probably miss is, you know, the one game that I actually go to at T-Mobile. But we haven't really decided on which game to go to just yet. Shotgun set, and that looks like a false start on Abraham Lucas. First self-inflicted wound for Seattle here in the first quarter. First down and 15 at the San Francisco 24. Yeah, I mean, I'm really desperate for baseball. And again, you know, we don't have very many games left after this weekend. We only have 3 NFL games left. The Natty is on Monday for college football. Then the season's over between Miami and Indiana. You know, we got the NFC, AFC championship game next weekend, then a couple weeks, and we got the Super Bowl, and then that's it. So again, you know, really soak in these moments, you know, and make sure you appreciate, you know, football for what you see, because pretty soon, you know, you'll be waiting 6 months for football to start up again. But again, if you are a, you know, baseball fan or a NASCAR fan, or you enjoy NHL or NBA, you'll be okay. But again, everyone has their favorite things that they look forward to. Kenneth Walker off that right side for a 5-yard run. And that's going to be 2nd down and 10 at the San Francisco 19 after the false start by Abraham Lucas. Bernardo Green, the corner for the Niners, with the tackle. 7-0 Seahawks lead with the opening kickoff. Ran back for a touchdown by Rashid Shaheed. And again, special teams does make a difference when you're trying to win. Get things situated here again, so give me 1 sec. I was not expecting that to happen. Hopefully nothing too big happened there. All right, give me 1 sec here. We had some kind of outage. And then I thought, oh God, is it going to come back? Am I going to have to call my provider and whatnot to see what's going on? So give me 1 sec here. And hopefully I can get everything going again. Okay. Looks like some kind of outage in the area because it was, and sometimes in, other providers and other, streaming platforms that you use, sometimes that'll turn into just the stream getting booted completely. But luckily, it didn't get booted. Obviously, Seahawks kicked the field goal, and it's good by Jason Myers. Apologize, I had that issue there, but I think we should be good to go. I had to take a look at my modem, and I saw a bunch of red lights pop up. And then the internet ended up quitting on me. YouTube quit on me, but I think we're good to go now. Captain with a tenor, appreciate you. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. And a couple weeks ago, I had an issue where I was going to end up doing, some of those games, with the Bucks and the Panthers, in the last week of the regular season, and then the Seahawks and Niners last game of the regular season, as well as the Ducks game versus JMU. but I had an internet issue that took a few days to kind of get situated with, some kind of work that they were doing in the area and whatnot. But luckily that was just like a little blip. And I think that we hopefully will be good the rest of the way. So. All right. Well, after that unsettling drop-off, I think we should be good now. First down and 10. McCaffrey off that left guard for a 3-yard gain. Boye Mafe there with the tackle. Second down and 7 at the San Francisco 31. Oh, definitely Romo. I'm an NFC guy, but, the Jim Nantz Romo broadcast is the best. Brady's a great quarterback, but not the greatest announcer. So, sometimes, screams a little bit when he doesn't need to, I think Olsen would have been a better fit, but obviously when Tom Brady comes to town, then someone has to, lose their job, so to speak. And fumble, ball comes loose. Seattle scoops it up. Let's go. Big play by the Hawks. Let's go. It's already 10-0 Seattle, and then you end up getting the big fumble recovery there. Great job by the Hawks. Drew in the building. What's good? Nice job by Julian Love to pick that up. And Purdy to Tongas, and if that was George Kittle, maybe that doesn't happen. But again, the 49ers know what type of team that they're playing. And Seattle came into San Fran the last week of the regular season and beat their ass. And, the only thing that the Niners could kind of hold their hat to was that, maybe Sam Darnold's oblique is so bad that he might only play a little bit in the game. That would maybe be the only chance, that the Niners have today, realistically. But it looks like the oblique might be, banged up a little bit, but not enough for Darnold to miss the start. And, special teams and defense coming alive for Seattle. And that's one of the main reasons that most people think that they'll be in the Super Bowl. Definitely going to be in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, but who will be the representative in the NFC? We'll have to wait and find out. Great job there by Julian Love. 10-0 Seattle. And everything, how is everything sounding on the mics and everything? Because sometimes when we end up having issues like that and the power goes out or something goes, wrong in my area, which doesn't happen often, but I'm happy that it was able to get reset on its own. I thought, hell, I'm going to have to, restart the stream or just say fuck it at that point. But we only were offline there. So when I was gone, it just went to the football card screen with the music, I assume. Is that what happened for you guys? Like all of a sudden I was here and then I disappeared. And then all you guys heard was just the music from the background and then the football cards in the background, I assume, is what happened. So on the previous, tool that I was using in the past, if you got, kicked offline, that's it. Your stream is over. It just ends the stream. So luckily for this particular provider that I'm using, even when there's a power outage or something goes on with YouTube or the power in the area, the stream keeps going until you end up going back online, which is awesome. So you might not have the, visual of me, trying to fix it, but at least the stream continues to roll on. And luckily that was only a little bit of a blip. So. Okay, we got the cards and the tunes. Okay, good. And the audio's still good. Because sometimes I have to unplug things and plug things back in. But, the only thing that we missed is just like a minute or two of the Jason Myers field goal. So I'm glad that was the only part that I missed. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Darnold under center. And the Niners bring a blitz off the edge. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And Malik Mustafa, the safety, coming off a blitz off the edge. Loss of 10 for the Seattle Seahawks. And we already know Darnold is dealing with that oblique. So more times than not, if they can keep him upright, that's going to give them a better chance to keep things moving. And it looks like I need to refresh the scoreboard on this one too, because that's when things got caught up. So let me go here. Scoreboard needs to be refreshed because it still shows only 7-0 and we know it's 10-0. So caught that just a moment ago. There we go. Looks like I got that refreshed. Okay, and I think we should be good to go now. There we go. Yeah, I just noticed it. I had a power outage here and, some kind of reset with my modem and whatnot. So I just caught it. Nice job there from Sam Darnold to Cooper Kupp, the former Ram, Eastern Washington prospect. And a nice 21-yard pass from Darnold to Kupp. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 31. Yeah, most of the cards that you see that I have are from the 60s or 70s, in that era. So, like for the baseball streams and the football streams. I had some old ones for like hockey and basketball too, but sometimes I change the format on those streams. And Darnold getting pressured, incomplete. Yeah, 1970 tops. That's what the cards are. 1970. I could have used modern cards, but again, I think like the old school look kind of fits into the style of, who I am as kind of a throwback. So, and a collision downfield, flags fly, and that's going to be PI on the Niners, and Seattle is going to be getting a touchdown, it feels like, here before the first quarter ends. 23-yard penalty. And that's going to be first and goal at the San Fran 8. Everything going wrong for the Niners, everything going right for the Hawks. Hand off to Kenneth Walker III off that right guard for 4 yards. Eric Kendricks with the tackle, linebacker for the Niners. Second and goal at the San Francisco 4. 10-0 Seattle. Opening kickoff by Rashid Shaheed, taken to the house, and then a Myers field goal to add on to the Seattle 10-0 lead here in the first quarter. A lot of talent that comes out of Oregon and Washington. There's no doubt about that. God, I'm so happy that the stream kicked back on. I was thinking to myself, fuck, man, all that time and energy, to make the thumbnail and already do the first game. I was like, don't do this to me, sports gods. And luckily it was only for like 2 minutes. That might have been the, fastest turnaround that I've had. Back of the end zone to JSN. Touchdown, Hawks. Beautiful throw by Sam Darnold, and he's got an oblique injury. I don't see it. And just like that, 16-0 Seattle, kicking their ass and taking names, baby. Extra point from Myers incoming here shortly. Now, it's not going to be this easy when you play the Rams in the NFC Championship game, but again, against a team that you have their number. You lost week 1 when you were figuring out your identity, right? But then you were able to get payback at the end of the regular season in their house, right? And then now being at home, showing how good the Seattle Seahawks truly are. They are, arguably the best Super Bowl contender, out of all the teams that are left. They look like the best team coming into the playoffs. And right now they are looking like arguably the best team with the teams that are remaining. Great job by Seattle. Extra point is up and good. And it's 17-0 Hawks. And again, when they end up having a number 1 D or they're number 1 in certain categories like Denver and Houston, Again, most of the time when Seattle is at top of the board, as far as defensive categories, even if they're splitting with a few other teams like Denver and Houston, every time they've been one of those top dogs on defense, they've gone to the Super Bowl. And we know that it hasn't worked out every time they've gone there, but again, this is definitely one of the hottest teams in football, and it shows. 17-0 Seattle. You're getting it from special teams, you're getting it from defense, and you're getting it from the offense. And you couldn't ask for more of a well-balanced team than you have here with the Seattle Seahawks. Beautiful. Oh, Luis Arise is one of the best pure hitters in the game. I mean, he's been traveling from team to team, in the last few years, but typically is a, 300 hitter, great player. You're probably going to have to pay quite a bit for a guy like that. But again, is a guy that could hit in Seattle like Josh Naylor. I just don't know if we could afford Luis Arise. And if we wanted to do a trade, I'm not sure if I would want to give up any of our guys for him, but I am a big fan of Luis Arise. He is a stud. I mean, career regular season hitter of 317. I mean, that would be huge for us if we were able to get a player like that, for sure. Switch hitter, can bat left or right, 5'10", 175. He plays first base, though, for the most part, and we already have Naylor, so obviously you could always use a player like that in a different position and whatnot, but, just like a lot of the Mariners were, looking into Ketel Marte and, some of these other big name players like Arise. But again, if you're going to go for a guy like that, what are you going to have to give up, besides just paying a guy to come to your team and whatnot, depending on what his situation is. So we're far from, being done, with the roster. We still need to keep upgrading, but, we'll see kind of how it all plays out. Highly doubt Arise would come to Seattle, though. I don't think that we would be able to have the right opportunity. And again, it's not like we would want to give up, Wu or Gilbert or Kirby, and to be able to get a guy like Arise, unless it's just money, you probably would have to give up something, very coveted to get a player like that to come to the team. And, we're trying to build a team, not break up a team. So Myers with the kick, 65 yards, touchback to the San Francisco 35 for Brock Purdy. Yeah, plus Naylor is great at defense, and again, we haven't really had a great defender at first. So it's nice to be able to have that, plus the stolen bags and the home runs and just the great baseball IQ that Naylor has, to be able to get those hard hit balls in his area and wild throws, from the second baseman, shortstop, and third baseman off, one hops. A lot of times guys can't make those plays, but Naylor has proven that, he can come up with those plays just as often as anyone. Purdy, short right to Christian McCaffrey, run CMC, 11-yard game. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang, finally with a first down. First down and 10 at the Niner 46. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can really believe everything that's coming out of Fox Sports, but, and that's why things are typically rumors, just throwing it out there, whether they made it up or if they have some kind of inside connection and whatnot. So shotgun set, McCaffrey up the middle, 1-yard gain, Lawrence and Jones with the tackle. Second down and 9 at the San Francisco 47, 17-0 Hawks. Yeah, if Arise is just a free agent and we just have to pay him, then pay the man. That would be, and obviously, he's like the modern day Ichiro. It doesn't matter what team he goes to, he always hits. And again, over a 300 career hitter, he could do a lot, whether that be DH or, filling in at first base or, doing other, opportunities, for the team to get better. but I don't know how much we would have to pay the man. We'd have to pay probably a lot, and I don't know if Seattle would be willing. Shotgun set, Purdy, short right to Christian McCaffrey. But if we had a chance on bringing Geno back or getting a Rise, I would rather have a Rise. He's been very consistent as a player. No disrespect to Geno, but, a lot of strikeouts, and he's not the same defender as he was, even a few years ago. And that's going to be the end of the first quarter. 17-0 Seattle. Everything that you wanted and more from special teams, defense, and the offense. And obviously, if you're the Niners, you want to hit the reset button, because obviously that is not what you expected that would happen. Here being on the road, you knew it would be tough, but I don't think any Niner fan thought it would be 17-0 in the second quarter. Yeah, but again, if you look at Arise overall, one of the best pure hitters, in the game. If you just go back and look at his stats year in and year out, and it doesn't matter really what team he plays on, he always produces. Sam Hauser, 7 for 8 from deep, huh? Nice. Yeah, but you can't feel bad for Josh Allen. I mean, again, they had 3 fumbles in the first half, 2 interceptions. You can't have 5 turnovers and think that you can win the game or you deserve to win the game. If they would have played a clean game, they would have won, and it wouldn't have went into overtime. So again, normally when the Bills play in a big game, they don't really make that many mistakes. But again, you got to give, Denver some credit. They have one of the top defenses with Houston and Seattle, and it shows. Defense wins games, defense wins championships. And also, Josh Allen and James Cook might be the duo that bucks that trend more times than not, being able to come back from 10 points or more, but this year they just weren't able to get it done, and again, if they would have had 2 turnovers or 3 instead of 5, maybe that would have been the difference. But again, they played a sloppy game. They didn't deserve to win, with that many turnovers, and the better team won, and again, I was kind of rooting for, the Bills to go all the way, because I think that would end up being a better matchup. Bills, Rams, Bills, Seahawks, that's going to give you the best ratings, for a Super Bowl, because of Josh Allen and who he is. And they actually have a good running back. But, since Denver won, now they'll have an opportunity to be able to, go to the AFC Championship game against Drake May or CJ Stroud. And, we'll find out who they end up playing, and it felt like the AFC was more up for grabs. It's very one-sided with Seattle and the Niners and the Rams and the Bears. It just, it just feels like it's going to be Seahawks Rams. And that's when we're actually going to get a good football game, and then obviously I feel that tomorrow's game between the Patriots and the Texans are going to be similar to what we saw with Denver and the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be very, very close, and anything could happen. Really the blowouts are going to be, on the NFC side. You assume the Rams will blow out the Bears and Seattle will blow out the Niners. So it's a little bit more even with the AFC matchups compared to the NFC. And throwing across his body, Brock Purdy to Jake Tongas, the George Kittle fill-in, and a nice 10-yard pass. Emanwari there with the coverage with DeMarcus Lawrence. First down and 10 at the Seattle 39. Move the chains. Yeah, fantastic player. Yeah, Josh is a very authentic, fun player to watch, and again, it's a team sport, and again, they need to be better at run defense, and again, maybe some better, wide receivers and tight ends, even though most of those guys have, done pretty good job with Josh Allen, but they really haven't been the same since Diggs left, and they need another Diggs type of player, that they can count on late in games when things are, kind of going into crunch time, instead of just him and Cook. They need that Diggs receiver again, and they haven't had a guy as good as him since he left. And obviously, we've seen how much better the Patriots have been since Diggs went there. So, everywhere Diggs goes, he may be a distraction off the field, but he's a damn good player on the field, for whatever team he usually is on. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to Christian McCaffrey. Nice 8-yard pass. And that looks like they're just going to give him the first down. First down, Niners. Move the chains. First down and 10 at the Seattle 29. But again, I think that the Bills and Seahawks, Bills and Rams would have provided the best Super Bowl as far as excitement. Not to say that the Broncos, Patriots, and Texans won't, but it just won't be as many eyeballs glued to the screen if those other teams make it. No disrespect to the Broncos, Patriots, or the Texans, but, it feels like it's a little one-sided. As good as the AFC is, it feels like the two best teams in football may be in the NFC. But again, we will have to wait and see because obviously the Broncos defense is elite. Texan defense is elite. Patriots are maybe the most well-rounded team from, top to bottom with Seattle and the Rams. So again, we're starting to really get to the nitty-gritty on, the teams that are contenders and the teams that are pretenders. And the Niners and Bears are pretenders. The Seahawks, the Rams, the Broncos, and then Patriots and Texans are contenders at the moment. And obviously as we go into tomorrow, we'll figure out who the final four will be. And then finally, you don't got to worry, about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs if you're Josh Allen. But then again, the only problem is everyone else caught up. It wasn't just, the Chiefs and then before them, the Patriots and everyone else much below them. Not only, were they able to have a good season, the Buffalo Bills, but then everyone else in the AFC kind of caught up. And so that was kind of the problem. Even the teams that they thought they were much better than, kind of caught up. And it was very, well-rounded, so to speak, in the AFC. Not really one team that much better than the rest. So, and sometimes that happens in sports. You're not going to be able to be the top dog forever. Purdy going deep to Juwan Jennings with the floater. He's open. And nice hit there late by Seattle. Coming over there late and breaking that up, Kobe Bryant. Second down and 10 at the Seattle 29. Yeah. I mean, they had a hell of a squad, back in the 90s. You just ran into, the Giants with Lawrence Taylor, the Redskins and the Hogs in 91, and then the start of the Cowboy dynasty in 92 and 93, and it's like, Marv Levy was great, as a head coach. And, you had Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Cornelius Bennett, Bruce Smith, Don Beebe. You had plenty of guys. It's just, you just kind of ran into the wrong squads at the wrong time. And, NFC was king in that stretch back in the, early 90s. And a majority of the 90s, if we really are being honest about it. Almost every year it was an NFC team winning besides back-to-back by the Broncos. Shotgun set, Purdy, incomplete short right. And that's going to be third down and 10 at the Seattle 29. But again, I do assume if Buffalo keeps improving, their squad, getting better receivers, a number one guy, more defense, especially in the run game, there is a possibility that the Bills and Josh Allen will make a Super Bowl, before his career is over. He's too good, you assume, to not to, right? Like you assume he'll make it at least once. He may not win it all, but he'll get there at least once. But hopefully he gets there a couple times. But again, it shows you how hard, it is to get there and how everyone else caught up in the AFC. It's not just the Chiefs and the Bills anymore. Shotgun set, Purdy short left to Christian McCaffrey. Nice 7-yard gain. And now it's fourth down and 3 at the 22. And they will take the 3. Kick is up and good. And the bleeding finally stops. Eddie Pinheiro ends up getting the field goal for them. 17-3 Hawks. Chief with a $5. Appreciate you. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Another $5 holla on the Dono train. Dark Wolf in the building. What's good? Reflect with a 3-er. Every dollar counts. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Another $3 holla on the Dono train. Appreciate you. Paisley's a little confused with dad working 8 hours straight and whatnot. But again, we already went on our 2 long walks early this morning. And, again, we're getting down to the end of the season, and you got to grind it out. So, I'll be doing both games tomorrow as long as I have a voice. If I don't have a voice, then this would be the game that we would skip, even though I really want to do it. And since I've already made the thumbnail, obviously. And then obviously the late game tomorrow, Rams and Bears. And then we got the Natty on Monday with the Hurricanes and the Hoosiers. So, it took quite a long time to make the 5 thumbnails. And, usually I don't want to spend so much energy and time on a thumbnail and then not do the stream. But, we'll see. I want to make sure I have a voice, for the Rams and Bears and the Natty for Miami and Indiana. So. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. But I originally made a different thumb than this one, and I thought, you know what, I got to get something better, and then ended up remaking the thumb this morning right before kickoff, and I think this one turned out great. I was trying to get a better Bo Nix image, and it took a while to be able to finally get one, but I think that one turned out great, and I'll use that one probably again for the AFC Championship game. And, again, you get to this point in the season where you have contenders and pretenders, and, most of the teams that are left in the final 8 are contenders. But again, there are going to be a few pretenders, and, the pretenders are on the NFC side. Again, I think that it could have been Denver or, Buffalo. It can be New England or Houston. I don't think there's really a definitive answer. The games are going to be close, and it could go either way. I think really the only thing for sure that we feel is the Seahawks are going to beat the Niners, the Rams are going to beat the Bears, and then when they play each other in the NFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl, we're going to get one of the best games of the year, and it might end up being even better than the Super Bowl. And then the same thing might be able to be said for Denver and New England or Denver and Houston. That has a potential, to be, maybe even potentially better than the Super Bowl. We don't really know. We have to kind of wait to see what the final matchups are going to be. But, sometimes the AFC, NFC championship games end up being a little more entertaining than the Super Bowl itself. But I'm definitely looking forward to those matchups. And, we're getting to the end of the season now. Going into next weekend, we only have 3 games left. The Natty on Monday for college football, that season's over. Then you got the NFC, AFC championship game next weekend. Wait a couple weeks, and then you got the Super Bowl, and then we're going to be really transitioning into baseball, which I'm very excited about. Pinheiro kicks, 59 yards. Rashid Shaheed with a 31-yard return, and he has been a godsend and a blessing for Seattle. Could be the difference between them winning the Super Bowl or not. Or beating the Rams in the NFC Championship game or not, when you got a guy as elite as Rashid Shaheed. And they don't even really use him at wide receiver. He is a great deep threat, and he was for the Saints, but based on the depth that they have, for Seattle, they don't even really need him at receiver, but again, you may see him play a little receiver besides special teams, but he knows his role, and he's making the most of it with his home run ability. Hand off to Zach Charbonnet off that left side, 2-yard gain. Winters and Elliott with the tackle. 2nd down and 8 at the Seattle 39. And again, Rashid Shaheed is one of those guys that, on the Saints, they would definitely go deep, go routes and, stop and goes and posts. And, he normally would get behind the defense and score long touchdowns for the Saints. So even though they haven't really utilized that aspect of his game yet, that doesn't mean that we won't see it between now and the Super Bowl. Yeah, great comparison. Kind of like a Percy Harvin, but less attitude. Agreed. And Sam Darnold to Kenneth Walker, the third, 6-yard pass, 3rd down and 2 at the Seattle 45. Yeah. I mean, if CJ Stroud plays well, and again, we already know that the Texans got the best D-line in football, right? With Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. and Sheldon Rankins, the former Saint, there as well. So, we'll see on how it kind of all plays out. We know Seattle's defense is tough. Denver's defense is tough. And we obviously know Houston's defense is very, very tough. And obviously the Rams aren't a slouch on D either. So, but I'm definitely excited for tomorrow. Darnold going deep and incomplete. Going to Rashid Shaheed. And just like when we said, the guy that goes on the deep route, they don't really utilize him that much. And then 30 seconds later, they go with a deep route to Shaheed, but a little overthrown. And that's going to be 4th down and 2 at the Seattle 45. New England is very well balanced on offense, defense, and special teams. And again, the Texans have been playing their best ball late in the year. So again, it's not a guaranteed New England win or a guaranteed Texan win on the road. I mean, they won their first road game in their history last week. So a lot of pressure to be able to continue to keep winning on the road. But, if anyone could beat New England, on the road, it's definitely Houston would be one of those teams, especially at this point of the year. And Michael Dixon with the punt, 51 yards, gets down and goes out of bounds at the San Francisco 4. Everything going Seattle. $10-12 left in the second quarter, 17-3 Seattle. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. We won't take any slander here. If you're a hater, this isn't the channel for you. 10-12 left in the second quarter, 17-3 Seattle. It's this generation, young and old. It just seems like it's just so easy, to be rude, and again, it takes a real one, to be respectful and, it's just how it is. I know the world is a crazy place and whatnot, but, you get these, younger generation and even older people, being keyboard warriors and being bold when they never would say anything like that to someone's face. And, again, haters, there's plenty of streams that the haters will be accepted, but not here. I take a lot of pride in making sure that we, have a fun place to be able to hang out and whatnot. And if that means I lose, subs and views and donos to, people that are ignorant and rude, then, so be it. We'll be able to make up for it from the people that are good people that enjoy the same things that I enjoy here on the daily. Christian McCaffrey off that left guard for 8 yards. Second down and 2 at the San Francisco 13. Second down and 3. And Christian McCaffrey battling for every yard that he can get. 3-yard run. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. Yeah, no Nico Collins for Houston tomorrow. But again, Christian Kirk can definitely step up and, make the plays that, other individuals like Nico used to make. He's been kind of injury prone, this season, and I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor. If Nico Collins doesn't play, that doesn't mean that they're not going to win. They still can win that game on the road 100%, especially if the defense comes to play and CJ plays well. Purdy going to Tongas on that opposite side of the field. Nice yak yards there. Kobe Bryant with the tackle. 15-yard pass. First down, Niners. Move the chains. Yeah. If you fuck around, you will find out, and sometimes it will only be one word, or one comment that's said. But again, if you're going to do it once, you're going to do it again, So again, it's easier just to nip it right away, and eliminate the haters and the trolls and people that are negative. So, I mean, we already have enough negativity going on in our lives with everything else that's going on in the world. The last thing that we need is, the negativity on something that we actually enjoy, like football. So shotgun set, Purdy short middle to Jake Tonga is filling in for George Kittle very nicely. 16-yard pass, first down and 10 at the San Francisco 47. I mean, the Niners are going to make plays. They're not going to just roll over and die. I mean, they're not going to win the game, but again, they've been one of those teams that's been, very well coached, right? With Saleh and obviously on the defensive side with the no-name defense. It's not like they have, a lot of their studs that they are used to having. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga moved on to Denver. Obviously Bosa got hurt, as well as Fred Warner. So if you look at the names on the defense, it's a lot of no-name guys that have been making plays. But, at some point, you're going to meet your match. And that is obviously the Seattle Seahawks, as well as the Los Angeles Rams. So, even though the Niners have been great and have done much better, I kind of wish that Tampa would have been able to be like the Niners and we were able to overcome, even with all the injuries. But again, the difference, they have a great defensive coordinator in Saleh, and I don't have one. So, Todd Bowles obviously is not the same, and I wish they would have fired him, and, maybe I would have had a chance at a better coach, but, we'll see what happens. Purdy, short left to Christian McCaffrey for a 9-yard pass. First down, Niners. Move the chains. Vapor with a 20. Thank you, man. All right, I did the first game, and it was a little underwhelming with likes, views, and donos. But again, I figured I would just try to grind it out. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Thank you so much for your support, Vapor. $20 holla on the dono train. So, I haven't had a break. And we've been grinding it out since the beginning of the first game, timeout Niners. And again, I plan on going back-to-back tomorrow as well. So I can only do that so often, before I get kind of burnt out. I mean, I used to do 2 streams or even 3 streams in a day, but a lot of times I'll have a little bit of a break in between. But when you end up doing 2 streams back-to-back with no break, it can definitely wear on you. And again, I plan on trying to do that today and tomorrow, and then doing the Natty on Monday. And then as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe a little NBA or a little NHL with the Seattle Kraken or whoever is a good matchup on the NBA. And, I tried doing the, Spurs and Thunder, last week, and it was coast to coast. So I figured it would be on NBC, but I didn't realize that the Blazers were the doubleheader. So they ended up showing the news here locally, and I got blacked out of the game, and I wasn't able to do it. And obviously, if you're going to be doing like an NBA game, I can't be using a streaming link and being like 30 seconds to a minute behind. So even though I spent all the time making the SGA Wemby thumbnail, unfortunately, about 5 minutes before tip, I had to just say, fuck it, and end it. And then I watched a few of the Kraken games against the Devils and the Bruins. They lost both of those games, but they're much better, than they were obviously last year or the year before. So we'll sprinkle in a little NBA, a little NHL, maybe a little WWE. Obviously, NASCAR will be back with the Clash at the beginning of February, and then obviously baseball, World Baseball Classic, as well as spring training ball starts February 20th. So we're going to get to a point where we're going to be doing baseball on the daily, but we still got a little bit of time between now and March before that happens. So with that being said, I got to be able to start, doing a little bit of the NBA, NHL, even if the viewership ends up being a little light at first. Hopefully we'll be able to get enough support to, make it happen. So, again, it takes a lot of time and energy and effort, to not only, do the thumbs, but then also to do the prep and then to do the stream on a high level. So, but I do appreciate every single one of you guys. And again, it really does mean a lot. Yeah, 8 minutes ago, Bo Nix suffered a season-ending broken bone in his ankle during today's overtime. Oh, my God. Well, there goes Buffalo's chances, or Denver's chances. So, wow. That's terrible news if you're a Bronco fan. Holy cow. I mean, after being able to get that big victory, now you have to assume that the Texans or New England will be able to beat them. You know, you're not going to be able to win with a backup quarterback. And again, the first injury to Bo Nix, and it ends up being in the playoffs, in overtime, season ending. Holy hell. Man, it just doesn't get any better for Bronco fans, does it? Trick play, and Purdy with the flea flicker, back to Demarcus Robinson. And again, with the backup quarterback, even though their defense is elite, they have 0% chance of beating Houston or New England. And obviously, if you're a Texan or New England fan, you got to feel pretty good about that. If you're a Bronco fan, you're in tears right now. Holy cow. But again, I'm not even really sure if the AFC is good enough to win the Super Bowl this year. Kind of feels like, the Seahawks or the Rams could definitely win it for the NFC. McCaffrey up the middle for a 3-yard gain. Reed and Williams with the coverage. 3rd down and 6 at the Seattle 38. Horrible timing, for the former Oregon Duck, finally being able to get closer to your dreams coming true and then having something like that happen. That's just terrible for Bo, terrible for the Broncos. That's terrible for the NFL, as far as, competition, getting to that level. It's like, oh, yay, you made the AFC Championship game, but now you can't even use your, top quarterback. That's heartbreaking, man. That is crazy. I don't think I've ever heard, of a situation of a guy getting hurt prior to the AFC NFC Championship game in my life. And I've been watching football since 85, let alone a good quarterback like Bo Nix. Man, that's just rough. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to Ricky Pearsall. And a nice catch there. 1st down, Niners. And again, the Niners aren't going away. They're going to be able to somewhat catch up, to Seattle, but I don't think that they'll be able to get past them score-wise. Niners are, a very gritty team, even with all the injuries. God, I'm sick for my best friend and all the Bronco people that I know, Like, you're so excited that you finally beat Josh Allen and the Bills, and you're going to the AFC Championship with Super Bowl dreams, obviously in reality, it could happen. But now with Bo out, either Houston or New England should be able to beat them pretty easily. That sucks. That's terrible for ratings. And, that's why I was kind of figuring it would have been better for Josh Allen, and the Bills to be able to make it and then, have a chance to represent the AFC. Ratings would have been the best. And not only is Josh Allen eliminated, now Bo Nix is eliminated. Crap. That sucks. Purdy, short middle to Ricky Pearsall, incomplete. 4th down and 6 at the Seattle 38. And Eddie Pinheiro going to go for another field goal here. And field goals aren't going to win it, but at least they'll keep you close. Field goal is up and good. And that's going to be 17-6 Seattle. .432 left in the second quarter, 17-6 Seattle. Yeah, it wasn't on the last play, but it's sometime in overtime he broke it. So that's based on what they're saying. Sometime during that overtime, he broke the bone. So they got Jarrett Stidham, and then Sam Ehlinger will be the backup to him. Yeah, they're fucked. Not to say that Jarrett Stidham, won't be able to, throw a touchdown pass, maybe one, maybe two at the most, and whatnot. But, going against, a team led by Drake May or CJ Stroud, I mean, the chances of Denver being able to beat either one of those teams with their backup quarterback, I think it's zero. It's just not going to happen. So Jarrett Stidham will be starting the game, and then Sam Ehlinger would be the backup, and those guys are definitely not good enough to beat Houston or, the Patriot defense, and both of those defenses like to fly around. So, man, so heartbreaking. And again, I think a lot of Bronco fans right now are still celebrating and maybe don't even realize, that Bo Nix, and the situation until they check their phones or check their messages and whatnot. So. I had to message my best friend, and I knew he wasn't going to believe me, but I knew that after he checked social media, he'd be like, oh, shit. God, man, that stinks. I like being able to see my friends have joy in their life, and to be able to finally, win a playoff game. And, obviously my buddy's a Duck fan as well. So we, both, watched Bo Nix develop, in the program for the Ducks. And then he was lucky enough to get him and Troy Franklin in the draft. And, to be able to finally beat Josh Allen and the Bills, and, to be able to do something special for Denver, and then to have that happen. Gosh, man, that stings so bad. Pinheiro kick, 65 yards, goes to the landing zone, and that's going to be first down and 10 at the Seattle 20. Halfback toss to Kenneth Walker III, bouncing it to the outside, 3-yard gain, second down and 7 at the Seattle 23. I mean, the amount of emotions of going up and down, for not only Bills fans, but now for the simple fact that the Broncos advanced but aren't going to win. If Buffalo didn't have so many turnovers, they definitely would have had a chance against New England or Houston. So. Shotgun set, Walker gets the handoff from Darnold, bouncing it to the outside, breaks a tackle and gets popped. 6-yard gain, third down and 1 at the Seattle 29. Yeah, my best friend is a Bronco fan and a Duck fan. So, I mean, God, we already had, the ultimate ass whooping against Indiana that obviously took a few days to get over, and then now, I knew that the Buccaneers weren't going to do anything this year, but at least I was kind of rooting for him to have some joy. And then finally gets a little bit of joy for 20 minutes, and then finding out now that Nix is done for the year. So that pretty much means their season is over. Flag on the play. And that definitely is not going to make the AFC Championship, that exciting when it's going to be a blowout by either Houston or New England. We've got an injured Seahawk down. Holding the knee. I hope he's okay. Charbonnet is down. Kenneth Walker III and a few assistants are nearby. Hopefully he's okay. And we get defensive holding on the Niners on Eric Kendricks, and that's going to be first down and 10 at the Seattle 34. Yeah, and I think every fan that was watching the game, we never saw any, type of moment, where something happened. But obviously he might have, fractured it or, broke it, and he was on adrenaline, and, maybe he just thought he, twisted his ankle or something, and it was just sore, and it was just walking it off. But Obviously, after the excitement, wore off and they're in the locker room celebrating, maybe started to walk around and fell and said, oh shit, maybe I need to, get an MRI or something. And then, was hoping that it was probably just, a strain or heavily bruised. But, obviously if you have some kind of crack, or it's completely broken, then, after the adrenaline wears off, because there really wasn't a moment in overtime that we saw, him hobbling around and like, oh, he's injured, right? So hopefully it didn't happen. They say it happened on the field, but could you imagine if it would have happened in the locker room? Like they were celebrating and then he broke it that way, like, jumping up and down on accident and then twisting it wrong and breaking it in the locker room celebrating. That would even be worse. But supposedly they're saying it happened on the field, in overtime at some point, but they're not really being that specific on exactly when. But we got 3:01 left in the second quarter, and that definitely is going to make the AFC Championship game not as exciting. And the NFC Championship game will probably be better than the Super Bowl with the Seahawks and the Rams, but Patriots or Texans versus the Broncos with no Bo Nix. I mean, I'm not saying it's not watchable, but it definitely isn't going to be the same as the Hawks and the Rams going to the Super Bowl, for that opportunity. So I guess it'll go NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, and then AFC Championship game. So, and again, I guess, for, Brett and Judah, Patriot fans, you got to feel good now that you have, a better chance to be able to, make it, but again, Houston is thinking the same thing. They've been able to win one game on the road. Can they do it again? And, it doesn't really matter if it's New England or Houston, as long as those quarterbacks don't get hurt, then, and hopefully that doesn't happen. The last thing that we want to see is Drake May or CJ Stroud getting hurt. And then we have two backups playing in the that might be the only way Denver wins, is that if, the CJ and Drake get hurt and then it ends up being backups, in the AFC Championship game. But I don't think anyone wants to see that. And I don't want to see any injuries either. So, yeah, Jarrett Stidham and Sam Ehlinger are the other quarterbacks. So those guys are definitely not good enough to compete with New England or Houston. Yeah, I mean, if they had Davis Mills, the backup for the Texans, that might be the saving grace. And Rashid Shaheed, nice cutback by Shaheed. What a baller. NFC South, baby. 30-yard run by Rashid Shaheed. And again, if they didn't pick him up, they wouldn't be in the position that they are, being the top dog in the NFL at this moment moving forward. It might have been the biggest single pickup out of any player, in the NFL this season. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only backup that might be able to win a game would be the Texans backup with Davis Mills. He could actually start for a few teams, but, unless you have a top 5 backup, shows you how important having a good backup is. Oh, man, it just never ends for Oregon Duck fans, and their players in the NFL, man. It's just like, can we just have a little bit of joy, Just a little bit. We don't need a lot, just a little bit of joy, but apparently not. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. 2-minute warning, 17-6, Seattle. All right, 2-minute warning here for Sam Darnold, 17-6. Seattle comfortably ahead, but, not to the point where it's an automatic victory for them. They still got to be able to get this job done here in the second half. Darnold, short right, and complete. Winters with the big pop for the Niners there. Good defense. 2nd down and 10 at the San Francisco 36. And again, the Niner defense doesn't have any big names anymore. But again, that's what makes them so impressive, that they don't really have anybody like name-wise, but they still compete. And that shows you how good Robert Saleh really is. And, I hope one day I can get a Robert Saleh in Tampa, because I definitely need someone like that to be able to turn the defense around. Shotgun set. Darnold going deep to Rashid Shaheed, and complete. 3rd down and 10 at the San Francisco 36. They did. Until they got exposed after that, but it definitely was one of the amazing starts to a season for the Saints before they absolutely went downhill. Third down and 10 at the San Francisco 36, 17-6 Seattle. Oh, man. For every Oregon Duck fan, Bo Nix fan, Denver Bronco fan, man, may my prayers be with you. It just makes me sick to my stomach, And again, the AFC Championship game might be for the first time, not as exciting. Most of the time it's like, can't wait to watch it, but with a backup quarterback in play, gosh. Jake Bobo from Sam Darnold, 1st down, Hawks. Nice job there by Jake Bobo. Great hands and great yak yards after the play. 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 20. Awesome to see Jake Bobo out there. Bobo definitely is a guy that, could get in the rotation, with the wide receivers. He definitely has a decent skill set to be able to help his team win, even though, he has minimal opportunities. Hand off to Kenneth Walker III. Nice cutback. Breaks 1 tackle. And not the second, but after gaining 9 yards, 2nd down and 1 at the San Francisco 11. Yeah, not was Cooper Kupp. Yeah, Jake Bobo. Hand off to Walker, and good tackle there. Timeout, Niners. 36 seconds left here before halftime. Seattle's going to get a minimum of 3 with Myers, but again, they really want to, kind of put the foot on the pedal, and if they can get a touchdown here and make it 24-6, you're not coming back from that. Yeah, Horton was fire, for a guy that no one really expected anything from, and, while he was healthy, gosh, he was very, very good. In certain games where JSN was a little down or had a few drops, you could rely on Horton to, kind of get the spark back. And again, and sometimes you got to move on, from guys like, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And again, at times, you may not be able to see the vision, but if it doesn't fit the vision of the coach, sometimes you got to get rid of the distractions. And Lockett, is a great human being, but just a little old, as far as football standards. And DK just kind of overrated, a guy that can't really run routes, and a guy that's kind of a me guy rather than a team guy. So again, for DK to leave, that's exactly what they kind of needed to be able to open up the game for JSN and others. And it shows you it's a team game, not a me game. And sometimes if you're too me, a lot of wide receivers are divas, but if you're too much a diva, you won't be there. Nice cutback, touchdown, Kenneth Walker III, bang! 7-yard tutty by Kenneth Walker III, 23-6 Hawks. There we go. Yeah, but also, too, on the flip side, as much as you love Josh Allen, if you're a fan of the NFL, you can't have 3 fumbles and 2 picks and think that you're worthy. Again, it was one of the sloppiest games, and It's the simple fact that they had Allen and Cook, they had a chance to keep it close. But if they didn't have that combo of two players, they would have gotten blown out by Denver. So, even though it hurts that, Bo Nix got hurt, and it hurts that you lost to Denver, and, Josh Allen is still healthy, they didn't earn it. They played a shitty game. And again, if you play shitty, you don't deserve to win. You play sloppy ball, and, again, you'll have to recoup and hopefully find a way to get to the AFC Championship game next year, But if you're looking at the teams that were most deserving, Denver deserved to win that game. Buffalo still could have won it in OT, but, just unfortunate the injury to Nix after all of that. Extra point is up and good by Myers, 24-6, Seattle. But Sam Darnold and the oblique or any other injury that's lingering, you can't see any sign of it. I imagine that they gave him a nice shot right before game time to kind of, ease the pain. My buddy, my best friend just messaged me, Stidham in the AFC title game. I want to puke. So, and every Bronco fan is feeling that same thing. And, sports can be cruel. I mean, it's one thing for Bo to get injured in the AFC Championship game. That's one thing. But to get hurt even before the game starts, that's the worst part of it all. Myers kicks 53 yards. Brian Robinson Jr., nice 18-yard return. Getting popped by Seattle's special teams, Morris and company. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 30. Yeah, but even if Rashid Shaheed didn't get that opening touchdown, it's not like Seattle would be down right now. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to Christian McCaffrey, incomplete. It's actually kind of phenomenal on how good San Francisco has done with all of the injuries they've had all year. And again, if they didn't have Shanahan and Saleh, there's no way in hell they would be in this game right now, let alone with a 12-5 record with all those injuries. I mean, literally every good player for their team got hurt at some point during the season for the most part. Maybe Christian McCaffrey, maybe being, the one guy that didn't really have a long period of time like he had in years past, being out. But, pretty much every main, shot caller and baller for the Niners ended up getting hurt on offense or defense. And, still to be, in the running for things with all of those injuries, that says a lot about the coaching staff. I wish I had their coaching staff in Tampa, if I'm being honest. How many more games would Tampa would have been able to win if I had Saleh and Shanahan instead of fucking Todd Bowles? Third time out there by the Niners. 13 seconds left after that nice play by Brock Purdy. And again, if they can get a touchdown or even a field goal here, probably too far away from a touchdown, 52 yards away. But if you can get another big first down and kick a field goal, 24-9 is ugly on the scoreboard, but it's better than 24-6. So. Yeah, but the thing is, even if Stidham plays the game of his life, they're not going to be able to beat New England or Houston based on, as long as their quarterbacks are healthy. They're just not going to be enough, I mean, you would have to have the special team score a touchdown like Rashid Shaheed for Denver, and then you would have to have a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown. And then, you would have to have Stidham probably throw for 2 touchdowns. And, that could maybe happen, but what are the chances of all those other things happening on top of Stidham throwing 2 touchdown passes? Probably not likely. He might be able to get 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns at the most. I don't think you'd be able to get more than 2, but, you're probably going to need extra help, on top of whatever he does. And that's, if he plays well. But you also have to realize New England and Houston's defenses are very good, so I just don't see any scenario Denver winning, honestly. But again, it's like, Stidham would have to throw for 2, preferably 3, and no interceptions. or maybe just one, but they don't get points off of it. Kick a couple field goals, with Lutz, and then you would have to get a special teams or a defensive touchdown or both, you would assume, and I just don't think you're going to be able to get everything to happen. I think it's going to be a disappointment, in the AFC Championship game. It pretty much feels like now, whoever wins the game tomorrow between the Texans and the Patriots is going to be in the Super Bowl. So, and again, do we really want to see Denver in the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback? No, that would be terrible. We want to be able to see, a healthy team play at least, right? So, I mean, as much as, people love the Broncos, if you're a Bronco fan, if somehow, some way they were to overachieve and actually make the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be necessarily a good Super Bowl. Backup quarterback for Denver going against Seattle or the Rams. You already know the Seattle and the Rams would win, even though the defense is elite for Denver, it just wouldn't be enough, offensively. Purdy going deep to Jake Tongas, the George Kittle replacement, incomplete. Witherspoon with the coverage. 2nd down and 10 at the San Francisco 48. Got 7 seconds left. Second down and 10. Nobody rushing the quarterback. Purdy going deep. All the way to the end zone. Bobbled. And incomplete. Had a shot at it. Shot at an interception. Shot at a touchdown. And that is halftime. Yeah, but the whole Bledsoe Brady thing, I mean, that's like 1 in a million. And then on top of that, having Belichick there and then having the right, coordinators there as well. It's like they've always had, the right type of people in the building, so it's not like you're going to see, too many instances of, Drew Bledsoe to Tom Brady. I mean, it's like out of all the backup quarterbacks, Davis Mills is probably the best one. So if CJ Stroud went down, Davis Mills could still win the game, but as far as all the other quarterbacks, if you had to have backups in, any of the rest of the games, it would be ugly. So, all right, we're at halftime. 11 minutes to go before halftime is up. Seattle in firm control, 24-6 Seattle. Could end up being a similar halftime score with the Rams and the Bears tomorrow. I'm going to go check up on my pup here real quick, and then we'll be back into the action here momentarily. And if there's anything that you guys want to see photo-wise, Captain, Chief, Reflect Vapor, let me know, and I got you. 24-6 halftime. Seattle with the firm lead in the first half. 3 minutes to go. If there's anything photo-wise anyone wants to be able to see, for the people that donated, let me know, and I gotcha. Definitely a challenging time for, the pup, not really used to me, sitting here for 7-8 hours straight and whatnot. But again, it's not going to be something that we do that often. And we'll find out how my voice feels tomorrow. And again, if I'm feeling good, then we'll end up doing this game at noon between CJ Stroud and the Texans and the New England Patriots led by Drake May. If my voice is, a little harsh and whatnot, then we'll only do this one for the Rams and the Bears, the late game. But I'm going to try to push and do both if I can. And obviously, and then on Monday, we got the Miami Hurricanes versus the Indiana Hoosiers. So I want to make sure I have a voice for that as well. So we'll see on how I feel. It's not really ideal to sit, and do 2 streams back to back with no rest in between. But, sometimes you got to push. And again, I appreciate all the support, from every individual. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. Everything matters. Everything adds up. And I appreciate that very, very much. 24-6 halftime lead here for the Hawks. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And we got 2 minutes to go before we get into the second half. San Francisco will be receiving the second half kickoff. Gain a couple subs since the last commercial break. 22 to go to 23,400. Yeah, again, and I don't think I've ever, seen a big name quarterback, get injured at that point of the season, before the Super Bowl or before the AFC NFC championship game. And I've been watching since, the 80s, and again, you've seen certain individuals like, Sims, get hurt and, Hostetler coming in and whatnot, but usually it's like not right before, a certain game or in a certain big game. But man, I just really feel for the Broncos and Bo Nix. I was really wanting to be able to see, full strength Denver Broncos, full strength Texans or Patriots, who's the better team. And it definitely feels like it's up for grabs in the AFC, not so much in the NFC. It feels like it's either the Seahawks, or the Rams, and there's no other team that has a chance. The Niners don't have a chance. The Bears don't have a chance. And then we'll find out who the best team is between the Hawks and the Rams. So obviously, are very, very good teams. They, split in the regular season, just like they did with the Niners. But, we'll wait and see on how it all plays out. And it just sucks that, Denver won't have a chance to be in the Super Bowl against the Rams or the Hawks, most likely because of this Bo Nix injury. Like, at least could we have gotten a little bit of Bo Nix in the AFC Championship game and then him getting hurt? Preferably like if it happened in, the fourth quarter of the AFC Championship game, and then, okay, at least he got a chance to try to win, for his team, not, you beat the Bills, and then now, in one of the biggest games in, Denver Bronco history since the John Elway era, you don't even get to have your fucking starting quarterback. It's just, man, stinks. And normally we don't have a lot of, kind of down, not necessarily negative, but, we don't usually have these type of things that we talk about in the, NFL game. Myers kick, 62 yards. And Brian Robertson Jr. there with a 25-yard return. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 28. And even if Bo Nix was healthy, there's no guarantee that they beat the Patriots or the Houston Texans, but it would have been exciting to see, at least see Bo play well and overachieve, or Bo play bad and then have to go back to the drawing board next year. We already know the defense is built, but it's not like Bo has a whole lot to work with. And I'm just feeling for all the Bronco and Duck fans. It's just, the bleeding doesn't stop. I mean, we already got obliterated by Indiana, and then now you have to deal with that, And for him, he's a Duck fan and a Bronco fan, so double whammy. Brutal. Brian Robinson off that right tackle for a yard, but we got a flag on the play. Mike in the building, what's good? Fourteen touches, 14 yards. Or 14 touches, 57 yards, 14 touches, 68 yards. McCaffrey's their best option in the running game and in the passing game, if we're really being honest. Considering Kittle is not available. Purdy steps up in the pocket, looking, and just throws it away to the Seattle sideline. Incomplete. Third down and 9 at the San Francisco 29. Yeah, McCaffrey definitely looks like he's banged up, and he was already feeling like that in the first half. If you were watching his mannerisms and him kind of scouring the sideline, he hasn't really looked right for a majority of this game. I mean, even if he was fully healthy, in that first half, it's not like they would have the lead against Seattle. Maybe they would have 13 points and he would have a touchdown, and maybe they would be down by like 11 or something, but it's not like they would be, right there with Seattle. Purdy looking, going deep to Juwan Jennings, that towards the sideline, caught. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. 19-yard pass from Purdy to Jennings. Move the chains. Nice improv there from Brock Purdy. And again, defenses can only stay on their man for so long before someone finally gets open. And Purdy was lucky enough to lead Juwan Jennings in the right spot. Really was throwing at a spot on the field rather than to Jennings directly. And sometimes that will turn into interceptions. But, Juwan Jennings read the route, and, they had good contact there. Big first down for Purdy and Jennings. Pressure after Brock Purdy, running for his life, and throws it away. Second down and 10 at the San Francisco 48. And injuries stink, and also the timing of injuries. And I think that, hopefully we don't see another issue like Bo Nix anytime in the near future, but we're definitely going to be remembering this year, for good things and also bad things, injuries. And now Tongas is hurt. I mean, the whole Niner team is just miraculous that they even have enough bodies out there considering all the injuries they've had. Losing Dre, Greenlaw, and Talanoa Hufanga to the Broncos, then having Bosa and Warner get hurt, and now Kittle and all the others. It's just, it's kind of amazing, and it shows you how good of a coaching job, the Niner organization has done up to this point. But again, it only will last for so long until you hit a powerhouse team like the Rams or the Seahawks. And, at that point, you'll end up taking the L. But, they're doing everything in their power to kind of hang around. And we know the Niners can plug and play pretty much anybody at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. As long as the O-line is strong, you're going to get some kind of production out of those players. But obviously replacing Christian McCaffrey, that's impossible. Hand off to Brian Robinson up the middle on third down and 3, going backwards. gaining only 1. Nice job by Mafe and Reed saying sit down. 4th down and 2 at the Seattle 44. Yeah, it's starting to get a little unfair in baseball. It's like they were already good enough, and then they add Kyle Tucker, on top of everything else that they already have, and again, the only way that they're not going to win a World Series or get to a World Series is if they get injured and whatnot. And there is a possibility that could happen. But I mean, if you're looking at lineup 1 through 9 and their pitching staff, it's, it feels like, and again, the Blue Jays took them to Game 7. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Leonard Williams says, sit down. Big sack lunch on Purdy. And that's going to turn into a punt here. Well, no punt. It ends up being a turnover on downs. And that's going to be 24-6 Seattle, 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 42. But again, injuries happen and whatnot, but it just, man, if you just look at like payrolls and, what the Dodgers are doing, it would be nice if we had a few other teams like the Dodgers that would be seriously investing in their teams and whatnot. Or you could do the opposite and be like the Mets and spend a lot of money and not get any results in return because you don't have a good GM owner or, a good fit for the players. Typically, it's like, they spend money, but they spend money in the wrong way, but at least they're spending money, I guess, but we'll see. Hopefully the Mariners or the Blue Jays could be one of those teams, that could dethrone the Dodgers. But, adding Kyle Tucker on top of already having so many all-star players is a little ridiculous. It's like, you got Teoscar Hernandez, who could be an all-star, Kyle Tucker, who could be an all-star, Shohei Ohtani, who could be an all-star, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and we haven't even mentioned the pitching staff. It's like, but again, we'll see how it all plays out. But Dodgers definitely putting themselves in position to try to three-peat, no doubt. But again, if the Blue Jays and the Mariners keep building their rosters, maybe one of those teams or both of those teams will be able to be champions in the next 5 to 10 years. So, you never know. 24-6 Seattle, 12:06 left in the third. I'm not sure if you're going to see Christian McCaffrey come back out. But again, the Niners, that would be the only way that you can get back into this game. It's not going to be by the defense since they don't really have anybody, but it's all Seattle the rest of the way here. (24-6) Seattle. But I like the fact, that the Mariners, already have the rivalry with the Houston, Astros, the Texas Rangers, the Los Angeles Angels. And then obviously I don't really feel like we have a real rivalry for the Athletics. If anything, I feel kind of sorry for them and I root for them to win, just not against us, but I want them to have some kind of success, and then obviously the Mariners and the Yankees, we don't like each other. We always have that beef. But then now, with the Blue Jays and the Mariners meeting up a couple times, in the playoffs, we won the first time, in 2022, they beat us this last year. I'm starting to feel, a little bit of a rivalry there, but maybe not as heated, as maybe like the Yankees or, the Astros, maybe more kind of like the Rangers, where we know we're playing someone, but you want to beat them, but it's going to be tough type of feeling, maybe a little bit more respect, even though, some of these organizations, there is a little bit bad blood, but, I think it's good for baseball. Shotgun set, Walker getting pushed out on that left side for a 7-yard gain. Malik Mustafa, the safety for the Niners, with the tackle. 2nd down and 3 at the San Francisco 35. Minnie in the building. What's good? She said it's wine o'clock, baby. 2nd down and 3 at the San Francisco 35. Man in motion. Darnold. Cooper Kupp. Nice catch by Cooper Kupp. Green with the coverage. 1st down, Hawks. Move the chains. 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 24. Feels like we're going to have a good game and a blowout. And then tomorrow, potentially another good game and a blowout. But once we get to the NFC, AFC championship game, at least the NFC side might be the real Super Bowl if it ends up being Seahawks Rams. But, Broncos versus the Patriots or Broncos versus the Texans with no Bo Nix, that definitely is going to be an underwhelming AFC Championship game. I'll still do both, as well as the Super Bowl, but definitely it's not going to be as exciting. Nice 8-yard run there by Kenneth Walker III. Malik Mustafa with another stop. 2nd down and 2 at the San Francisco 16. How's my favorite Canadian bartender doing today? How are you doing? She says it's wine o'clock, baby. Yeah, well, the Niners should have been smart enough to know that their luck was going to run out at some point. It's again, it's a time for the contenders and the pretenders. And again, they've been able to, kind of overlook their injuries up to this point. But again, once you end up getting deeper into the playoffs, you start to get exposed, when you have these key injuries. And again, they have a lot of, special players, on that Niner team. But again, a lot of those special players are fucking injured. And again, you can only do so much with backups. McCaffrey banged up, Tonga's banged up, and now the Seahawks are potentially getting a little bit closer for more points here. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And you don't see Darnold get sacked that often. C.J. West getting up into Darnold's grill. And again, with that oblique strain, you want to make sure you keep Darnold upright for the most part. Second time that Darnold's been down here today. Hopefully he's okay. 2nd down and 18 at the San Francisco 22. And even if the Hawks only end up getting field goals the rest of the way, or even just one more touchdown, it's going to be enough to win. And again, electric start to the game with the Rashid Shaheed, kickoff for a touchdown that set the tone. Just like Indiana got a pick 6 on Oregon. When you have a big play to start the game off, it's definitely foreshadowing of what is to come. Hand off to Kenneth Walker III, getting 5 yards and bouncing out of bounds. 3rd down and 13 at the San Francisco 17. Weather's been terrible. 1.5 feet of snow, then ice rain, and work was slowed down. Well, hopefully, it gets a little bit better for you, so you can make some more tips, so you can buy more wine and enjoy yourself. Less than 8 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Seahawks in firm control in this game, 24-6. No surprise there. Shotgun set. Niners bring blitz. And JSN trying to get pushed by his offensive line, but just coming up short of the first down marker. But a good improv play there by Darnold as he saw the blitz coming, just trying to get rid of it as quick as he can. JSN with a nice 11-yard pass. And catch from Darnold. Now 4th down and 2 at the San Francisco 6. And again, we know the Hawks could get 2 yards, but with Darnold's oblique and with Kenneth Walker III, we still have to be able to keep an eye on Charbonnet if he'll come back in the game or not. But they'll take the field goal by Myers. And again, if they kick field goals the rest of the way, it's still going to be enough to win. Kick is up and good. 27-6 Hawks. Nice job by Jason Myers. Yeah, and again, in Oregon and Washington, for a chunk of us that live in this Pacific Northwest, sometimes we won't even have snow until February. So we didn't have any in December. I don't think we're going to get any here in January. And then again, if we get it, we're going to get it in February or March. And if we get it in February or March, it's probably going to be 6 inches or less, and it'll only last like a day to 3 days, and then it'll be gone. So, snow, and then maybe freezing rain, and then maybe if we get a little bit more snow. And obviously Paisley, doesn't mind the weather. And again, I got a nice, coat for her. And again, I'm happy that I was able to get that for her in November. So that way that throughout all the crazy storms that we've had, she hasn't been miserable, and probably one of the better investments that I've made. Petco usually doesn't have a good selection of, winter coats, for certain dogs, and, depending on how big your dog is. But, that one has worked out very, very nicely for Paisley. And, again, and we've also found a new park to go to. So we go to 3 parks every day. In the morning, we stop by 2, and behind my old middle school, they got funding apparently like millions of dollars in funding, like maybe 15 years ago, because I haven't been to my middle school in a long time, and they got artificial turf, for soccer fields. They have 2 big ones back to back, and they're fenced off, and they have another one back lit into the trees. They even have a pickleball court. Like, it's crazy. And then they have like a nice playground area for dogs and kids. But you can definitely tell like the grant and the money that they got like 15 years ago. It's incredible. It's a great place for a dog and for kids as well. And even though I can't let Paisley on the artificial turf for the soccer area, if I had something like that available to me, even though I'm not into soccer, it would want me to like go out there and try to play. Like, especially when you have something so high end, like it literally looks like something that, like a college would have, and it's at a middle school, So again, for a middle school to be able to have like a pro field, like multiple, pro fields, pretty awesome, and again, it's a nice place for me and Paisley to, run around and enjoy ourselves, even though I almost did knock myself out yesterday going down, because they have like this kind of colored matted area where they have like blue and red and yellow that you can kind of walk around as you get through some of the obstacle courses that they have for the kids. And of course, as I was going downhill, Paisley jerked at the last minute, and with the leash, I uppercutted myself in the chin and almost knocked myself out. Haven't hit myself like that or even taken a hit like that in the chin in a long time. And, again, I got to be a little bit more careful, but, dogs are unpredictable, to say the least. And Robinson with the short return. Yeah, for you people in Canada or Michigan, man, that's crazy. Myers kicks 55 yards, 56 yards. Brian Robinson Jr. with a 22-yard return. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 31. Yeah, but not very many people are going to be like Tony Gwynn. Those guys are, when you got, so many stats under your belt that won't be replicated. Nice 11-yard pass from Purdy to Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, which we don't really see too many of those in the game anymore. 11-yard pass. First down and 10. Bang, bang, Niner gang. And you see Christian McCaffrey make his way back to the huddle. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. First down and 10. Purdy got all the time in the world back there and intercepted. Big pick by Seattle. Ernest Jones, the fourth, with the big interception, stepping in front and getting that big pick. Nice job. Yeah, well, it was already game over, earlier, but again, you still got to be able to kind of complete the process. And like I said, even if Seattle only gets field goals the rest of the way, 2, 3, 4 of them, that's enough to win. Like, hell, even if they don't score any more points the rest of the game, it's not like the Niners are going to be able to score realistically 21 the rest of the way, but again, if it's going to be, a nice blowout victory here. But again, when you play the Rams in the NFC Championship game, it's not going to be this easy, and that might be like the one team that could beat you. So again, that's going to be maybe the real Super Bowl, between the Hawks and the Rams, because it could either, be either team that comes out on top. There's no doubt about that. So, again, enjoy the victory today, but again, the journey is not over. You got to get past the Rams, and then if somehow, some way, you guys are able to get past the Rams, then you're going to have to get past the Texans or the Patriots. More than likely, you would assume the winner of that game will end up being in the Super Bowl, because I just can't think of any scenario of Denver winning the game with a backup quarterback. So, But if it ends up being the Texans, that might be the most exciting as far as the AFC side, best defensive line and, having CJ Stroud and whatnot. Not to say that the Patriots style of ball is boring. They're just very methodical and they do things the right way, but again, it kind of just depends on the style of play that you like, and, we know Drake May can throw the ball. They got good, running backs with Ramondre Stevenson and, and they got, nice key pieces like Travion Henderson, and you got Diggs and you got Mac Hollins, and, you got options there, but I guess it just kind of depends if you like that style of play or not. So. But fantastic game so far for Seattle, and you have to assume they're going to have the momentum on their side, and plus if the Rams end up beating the Bears, the Rams have to come to Seattle, and obviously that favors Seattle, and I can't wait to be able to see what happens there. Feel better. So after you got your original cold, you got another one? Or you're still on the same sickness that you were on earlier in the year? First down and 10. Darnold under center. 9 for 14, 90 yards and a TD. And a throw to JSN. Got about 4 yards there. Second down and 6 at the San Francisco 43. Second down and 6, handoff to Kenneth Walker III, bouncing to that right side, only gaining a yard. Lenore there with the tackle. Third down and 5 at the San Francisco 42. And again, when Seattle has a lead, just like any other good team that has a lead, you're going to run the football a lot, to bleed the clock out. And again, you are going to dink and doink and, take your deep shots, when needed. But again, you're not going to see as much explosive scoring in this second half, I assume. They're going to, they're not going to just try to play it conservative, but, it's not going to be full throttle, like as if this game were 27-24 right now. So you got sick, you got better, and then you got sick again. Prayers to you. I hope you feel better. That sucks. Because you already were sick for like a week to 2 weeks, originally, and now you're sick again. So hopefully you get better. Nice pass there to Kenneth Walker III in the flat. And look at him reach for that. I mean, his little dinosaur arms weren't almost high enough to be able to grab that football as Darnold is laughing with his little T-Rex arms trying to go up and get that. But I guess when you're Kenneth Walker III and you got little T-Rex arms and you got so much muscle there, you can only go as high as, your arms are going to let you, but wide open, not a niner in sight. And great effort there with those nice T-Rex arms by Kenneth Walker III. Great effort. Nice 15-yard pass from Darnold to T-Rex arms. Kenneth Walker III. Love it. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 27. T-Rex gang. And now bouncing it to Rashid Shaheed, going in the wrong direction. Winters chasing him down. Loss of 3. Second down and 13 at the San Francisco 30. Megan in the building. How are you? I know you're enjoying this one. Hawks kicking ass and taking names. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Seahawks dominating and looking very, very good. And we're definitely lining up for a potential Hawks-Rams rematch. And I can't wait to be able to see that in the NFC Championship game. Appreciate you for all your support. Shotgun set. Darnold going to Cooper Kupp. Wide open. Nice 15-yard pass there from Darnold to Kupp. First down, Hawks. Move the chains. Yeah, even with the oblique, you're not really seeing any sign of it, which is nice, and for all the people that were worried that he wasn't going to get to play and whatnot, obviously, those rumors were false, and he looks great, and hopefully, after this victory against the Niners, he'll be able to rest up and we'll be 100% ready for Matthew Stafford and the Rams in the NFC Championship game, which could be the real Super Bowl this season. Seattle with their first charge timeout. Nice. Yeah, and again, it's not just, Seattle's offense. It's their defense. It's their special teams. And, the Rams are good on offense, defense, and special teams. Patriots are good, offense, defense, special teams. And lately, the Texans have been pretty good on the offense, defense, and special teams as well. We know Denver is more defense. And again, special teams and offense are kind of hit or miss. But, after the Bo Nix injury, worst timing possible. I don't really see any scenario of them being able to advance the Super Bowl without their star quarterback. But, we'll wait and see how it all plays out, not only the rest of today, but tomorrow and next week in the AFC NFC Championship game. Darnold hands off to Kenneth Walker III. Look at him go. Touchdown, Hawks. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, making it look very easy out there. Nice job by Kenneth Walker III, my boy. 15-yard tutty, 33-6. And we already saw Seattle, beat the brakes off of the Niners in San Francisco in the last game of the regular season. And again, this team is motivated. And again, going into the playoffs, Seattle looked like the best team overall out of all the teams that were going into the playoffs. And again, they're showing why they are many teams and many fans' favorites to be able to go all the way. Extra point is up by Myers, and it is good. 34-6. Big ass whooping on the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, potentially you could bring in some backups and whatnot, but Charbonnet obviously had a knee issue and whatnot. So, and I don't know. We haven't seen Charbonnet back in the game after he got a little dinged up, and so I mean, you might be able to, bring in like Jake Bobo. You could bring in a guy like that maybe for some more reps and whatnot. But at this point, when you have a rivalry matchup, of course you don't want to risk any injury. But football is football, right? I mean, the Bo Nix situation could happen to anybody, but, hopefully it doesn't happen to any of the quarterbacks that are left. So, but there might be, a few guys, in the fourth quarter that normally don't get a whole lot of playing time that might be able to get a little bit more, but there is no indication that the Niners are coming back whatsoever. I mean, at this point, will they even score a touchdown before the game is over? So, your guess is as good as mine, but, obviously with no George Kittle, McCaffrey and Tonga's back, banged up. You're kind of running out of options. I mean, you got Juwan Jennings and Brian Robinson Jr. You got a few guys and whatnot, but it's not looking too good for San Francisco at the moment. $34-6 Seahawks. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Yeah, I got plenty of tea. I got plenty of honey. And I got 3 bags of cough drops and whatnot. So I think I'll be good to go. Again, we still got, 2 games tomorrow. with the Texans and the Patriots at noon, and then no rest, and then Bears and Rams is at 3:30, and then we got the Natty at 5 o'clock on Monday. So I want to make sure I have a voice on Monday for the Natty, but I'm going to push. I'm going to wake up early, take Paisley for a walk, and then do another, probably around 10:30, 11 a.m. and hopefully, I know it's kind of a weird thing for her to see dad work, 7-8 hours in a row and not have a break in between, but it's not like we're going to have this type of thing happen, the rest of the season. I mean, after this weekend, we're only going to have 3 games left, AFC, NFC championship game, and then Super Bowl, and then that's it. And then we'll, start plugging in some NBA, NHL, WWE, NASCAR, World Baseball Classic. And then obviously once we get to the MLB season, that's where, for me, I like to be able to have a schedule, and it's nice to be able to, kind of do a team, every single day. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to the Mariners and streaming every day for them. First down and 10, hand off to Christian McCaffrey, going in the wrong direction. Nice tackle there by Drake Thomas, the linebacker for the Hawks. Loss of 2, second down and 12 at the San Francisco 29. Less than 2 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Absolute throttling, ass whooping by the Hawks, 34-6. Just like, they beat them down in San Francisco on that last week. But again, also on the flip side, it's not like the Niners are healthy. If the Niners actually had everyone healthy, would they still lose this game? Yes, but it would be closer. If Kittle was available, if McCaffrey wasn't hurt, if Bosa, and a few of the other guys like Fred Warner were out there, they may be sitting at, 17 to 20 points, still not good enough to win the game, but it would definitely be a lot closer than it is now. And eventually you knew that those injuries were going to catch up to them, and they did a fantastic job to get up to this point, have a 12-5 record with a roster that's been banged up pretty much, right from the very beginning, but again, once you end up, matching up against someone that is a true Super Bowl contender, this is what happens. Purdy going to the sideline and poked away by Woolen at the last second. Great job. And that's 4th down and 3 at the San Francisco 38. Yeah, Gruden is already with like Barstool and whatnot, so I don't think you'll see Gruden ever coach again, and whatnot. I mean, obviously spending time with his wife and, being linked with Barstool and making the, same amount of money or similar money, and you don't have to coach. And, he's still going to be a social media guru and always coming up with interesting, funny content and whatnot. But I don't think you're going to see Gruden coach again. Could he be a great OC or a great head coach for a certain program in the NFL or college? Probably. But some of his, I think some of his like strategies may be a little outdated. The way that you ended up coaching, back, in the 2000s compared to what the NFL is now in 2026. It's a little different. But I like him, but I don't think he's gonna. He won't be back coaching anytime soon. I think he's done. Yeah, but even if the Niners, didn't give up an opening kickoff, they're still going to lose this game. It's not like, that just set the tone and kind of let you know what was going to happen later on. It's like Indiana getting the pick 6 on Oregon. That just was foreshadowing on the ass whooping to come. So. And incomplete. Looked like Purdy stepped out of bounds anyways, but. And honestly, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh have done a fantastic job with all things considered, with all the injuries they have. It's just that you finally ran into a Super Bowl contender and, found a way to not really get the job done. And it's not like, they were playing great ball at the regular season. They weren't able to beat Seattle at home when they could have, and again, injuries have really been a big factor for the Niners. And Seattle's had injuries here and there, but not as devastating and not as as far as big names are concerned. And again, if you can get hot and healthy at the right time, then you're going to be able to find your way in the AFC NFC Championship game, and if you're lucky enough, Super Bowl. And again, there's only one winner every year, so there's 32 teams, but only one winner. But Seattle definitely is looking like the top team in the NFL at the moment. They look like it, going into the playoffs. They look like it right now, and I'm really looking forward to the Seahawks and the Rams in the NFC Championship. You couldn't ask for a better matchup. And obviously on the AFC side, if Bo Nix didn't get hurt with a broken ankle, then obviously the Broncos, Patriots, Broncos, Texans, it will be, good, but not as good as the NFC side. And then now with the Bo Nix injury, feels like the AFC Championship game is going to be kind of fraudulent. It's like CJ Stroud or Drake May should be able to do enough to be able to have their teams advance. And, just kind of a shitty timing, for Bo Nix with the ankle and OT, but, that's sports. Yeah, Kevin Stefanski for Atlanta is a terrible hire. They're not gonna like that one bit. He'll be fired after a year or two. And then Harbaugh going to the Giants. I mean, that's a sexy name, and obviously that'll help out in the development of Dart, Scadaboo, and Neighbors. But they still got a long ways to go. But again, with Harbaugh, you assume it'll make their team more disciplined and better and more competitive in the NFC East. So I do like the Harbaugh hire for the Giants. But I don't like the Stefanski move. For the Falcons. And I think Falcons fans would be irate knowing that they got that particular coach. And hopefully Todd Bowles, will get fired and, we can bring in Mike Tomlin next year, and he has, had some experience with Tampa being a part of our program as a coach back in the day. So, we'll see what happens. Kenneth Walker getting the handoff there from Darnold, bouncing it to that left side. Gaining about 12 or 13 yards as he rumbles over a couple Niners. First down, Hawks. Move the chains. Standing with Ukraine in the building. What's good? Scott's Hawk in the building. What's good? And that's going to be the end of the third quarter, 34-6 Seahawks. But there's not one person on planet Earth that thought the Niners were winning this game. I mean, even Niner fans, even though they don't want to admit it, they knew that this was not going to be a win for them. I mean, also, looking at, how good the Ravens defense was, with him, and then how shitty they got once he left, and then how good Seattle's defense got once he came in. And again, you did have to clean house, get rid of a few pieces on offense and defense and bring other guys in. And a lot of times when you bring a new guy in, usually you're maybe a year or two early, and you end up having a little bit of success that seems a little rushed and whatnot, but sometimes things come together right away in that first or second year. Sometimes it doesn't take 3 or 4 or 5 years to get all your guys on the same page. And, you get players that believe in each other, that will play hard for their head coach. And then you also have a good scheme and you get rid of the bad eggs and then you bring in good ones. It definitely makes all the difference, and again, if this team still had DK Metcalf, you wouldn't be sitting at the same record that you have at 14-3, and again, sometimes you have guys that are loved when they're drafted by a team, and you'll root for them while they're on your team. But then you start to realize, with all of the antics on the sideline and whatnot, and a guy that, maybe a little overrated that can't really run routes, he definitely did some good things while he was in Seattle. But then obviously you wouldn't have had the emergence of JSN if he was still in the building. So, and Lockett just kind of got old. So, obviously a class act on and off the field, Tyler Lockett. But, at some point you got to be able to move on and, let other guys get a chance to play. Like Horton was great, during the regular season. And hell, they even got guys like Jake Bobo that if you threw him in as like wide receiver 4, on certain routes, that he would be able to get you some catches. And, you already got Cooper Kupp, and obviously he's, a little bit older in age. But, again, the offensive line drastically improved. The defense drastically improved. The special teams, adding Rashid Shaheed, drastically improved. So, again, O-line, D-line, defense, coaching, play calling. It's not always about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And obviously the Seahawks are showing that they have a complete team like the Rams. And again, it's going to make that NFC Championship game so special. I can't wait to see it. All right, we're in the fourth quarter now, 34-6 Seahawks with an ass whooping. And it's not going to be like this against the Rams, but definitely can appreciate what Seattle is putting forth on the TV here today. Look at this run. Wow. Great push by the offensive line to get more yards there for Kenneth Walker III. What a beast. And again, I don't think you're going to see, too many crazy injuries like the Bo Nix. Hopefully we don't see anything like that for a long, long time. But first and goal after that 15-yard run. Hand off to Walker. And remember, they don't have access to Charbonnet, so minimal gain there. Looks like they actually credit him loss of 3. D. Winters, the linebacker, with the tackle. Second and goal at the San Francisco 12. I think Darnold is more than a game manager. That sounds more like hater talk. I mean, you got to understand, he was able to get 14 wins with the Vikings with good supporting cast and a good coach, and then you're getting the same type of thing. If someone is a game manager, they're not going to be able to give you 14 fucking wins in back-to-back seasons. He may not be a popular name like a Josh Allen, or like a Lamar Jackson and whatnot. But again, just because someone isn't popular or they don't fit the bill description-wise, either white or black into your favoritism, the bottom line is he's been a really good quarterback the last 2 years. And of course, it shows you when he is on a bad team, he sees ghosts, like when he was on the Jets. So again, sometimes you're only as good as your supporting cast and your coach. So if you have a good coach and a good supporting cast, then you get good results like you did with Minnesota and Seattle. When you have garbage people around you, like when he was on the Jets, then obviously, that's what you get, garbage results. So, not every player is created equal, but again, it also helps when you have great people around you. It's a team effort. Hey, you know what? What's that? And off to Kenneth Walker III. Touchdown, Hawks. Nice job by Seattle getting the job done. Not today, Daryl. Daryl lost a bet. Can't win any money. Bet too much money on the Niners and has to cry about it. Sorry, my guy. Just because you didn't win your bet doesn't mean someone has to go from being a good player to a game manager, but everyone has to take out their feelings some way. Nice touchdown there by Kenneth Walker III. Extra point from Myers is good. 41-6 Seattle. Everyone gets into their feelings when they start losing money and making dumbass bets. Let's go, baby. 41-6 Seattle. Offense, defense, special teams, it's a complete package, baby. And undoubtedly, we'll get another NFC Special Teams Player of the Week in Rashid Shaheed. What a game breaker. He said it's 1 o'clock today, tomorrow, and beyond. Nice job, Minnie. Keep the bottles flowing. 41-6 Seattle. Yeah, Bo broke his ankle in overtime. There was no sign of him breaking it at any point. So, unless it happened in the locker room after, or he broke it and was playing through the adrenaline and whatnot, and then got an MRI because it felt off and then noticed that it was broken. But, heartbreaking. You finally beat a really good team in Josh Allen and the Bills, and then you find that information out. Would have been just better off the Broncos losing, and then having the Bills advance, and at least that way the AFC Championship game would be watchable. That way you'd have Josh Allen versus Drake May, or Josh Allen and CJ Stroud. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till next year to see what happens. And obviously, it's going to affect Denver going into next year, based on the timeline of the injury. I don't know how long it's going to take for that ankle. At least it wasn't an ACL, MCL, or PCL. So they have to be happy that it wasn't any structural damage to the knee, but still with the ankle, not ideal. Hand off to Christian McCaffrey, and getting about 8 yards up the middle. Lee with the tackle. 2nd down and 2 at the San Francisco 43. Yeah, it's probably the most devastating news, for a team winning ever in sports. I can't think of anything more devastating, than actually winning a playoff game and then finding out in overtime that your quarterback, who's one of the top, 12 quarterbacks in the NFL, in his sophomore season, obviously Jaden Daniels wasn't, able to avoid the injury bug, but Bo did until then. And, being able to stay healthy for 2 years, and then finally you get a big victory. And then as you go to the locker room, find out your ankle's broken and your season's over. I don't think I've ever, since watching football since like 1985, I don't think I've ever seen anything more dramatically just sad. And again, I'm not even a Bronco fan. I mean, obviously I'm a Duck fan. I love Bo Nix, but again, my best friend, he got the double whammy. He's a Duck fan and a Bronco fan. We obviously got to see the ass whooping that Indiana gave us. That hurt, and then not only that, now he has to go through, we won the game, but now we have no chance of making the Super Bowl because we don't even have Bo Nix. I mean, heartbreaking. I feel really bad for, Bronco fans in general, just tough. Purdy up the middle. with a 3-yard gain. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 47. Jarrett Stidham and Sam Ehlinger, they're fucked. They have no chance. I mean, unless Drake May or CJ Stroud go down, but if CJ Stroud goes down, they have actually a good backup. So they might be the only team that if their quarterback went down, that they could still win games, with the backup quarterback. But other than that, that might be the only team, though. Davis Mills actually filled in for CJ Stroud and played pretty fucking well. Top 5 backup in the league. Shows you how important it is to have a backup. Shotgun set, Purdy short middle to Jordan James. 7-yard gain, first down and 10 at the Seattle 42. Well, first, you didn't even know that they won. So second, you know what that comment gets you? We don't need delusional people that don't even know that Seattle's won a Super Bowl already. We need people to be smarter here, not dumber. Shotgun set. Purdy scrambles to that left side for a 3-yard gain. Devin Witherspoon with the coverage. Second down and 7 at the Seattle 39. Again, this is for Fanatics. This isn't just for anybody, But again, these individuals will learn real quick. You can talk shit and say stupid ass shit on other streams, and they'll allow it. Not here. Purdy. Oh, ball comes out, and Seattle recovers. Whoa! Amenwari, is that going to be? Let's see. I think they're going to give him. Are they going to say that's got to be a sack and a fumble recovery, right? You can't take that back. Nice job there by DeMarcus Lawrence. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Brock Purdy says, where am I? And then not only insult to injury, not only do you give up the sack, there goes the football. And Amenwari says, thank you very much. Seahawks don't even need to try, and they can get to 50. That shows you how dominant they are. And again, it's not going to be this easy against the Rams. Could end up coming down to whoever has the ball last, and a field goal by Myers, 27-24 for the victory. But again, you're going to see blowouts, and then you're going to want to see a really good game. And again, I can't wait to be able to see what the Seahawks and Rams have in store. That could actually be better than the Super Bowl. That could be the best game out of the rest of the games that are left. And then tomorrow we got the Patriots hosting the Texans. A very evenly matched game that could literally go either way. And you assume the winner of that will beat the Broncos to get to the Super Bowl. But I don't know if the Texans or the Patriots are good enough to beat the Rams or the Hawks. I don't think so. So it kind of feels like, whether it ends up being the Patriots or the Texans in the Super Bowl, I don't think either one of those, they would have to play an amazing game against Seattle or the Rams, if one of those two teams obviously is in the Super Bowl to beat them. And we know it's not like the Hawks and the Rams are unbeatable. They're a team that could get beat, but it would take a special kind of strategy and a complete meltdown by the NFC to not win the Super Bowl this year. Not to say that the AFC isn't capable, but again, Texans got the best D-line, with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter and Sheldon Rankins. There's no doubt about that. Their defense is lit, right? The Patriots are probably the most well-rounded team in the AFC. Offense, defense, special teams, Drake May, Josh McDaniels, Vrabel. I see you. But Seattle and Los Angeles, the Hawks and the Rams, they're, to me, on another level. And especially if Devontae Adams is healthy, with him on one side, Puka on the other, Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford, amazing guys on defense as well. What can you say? You've already seen what Seattle can do with Rashid Shaheed, numerous guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then obviously, even though people want to hate on Darnold and whatnot, it's not easy to be able to win, 14 wins in back-to-back seasons with different teams when you start your career off on a shit-ass, organization in the Jets. So it shows you, some guys, start off, on the wrong team. And sometimes, coaches and teams fail the quarterback rather than the quarterback failing the team. And it's nice to be able to see stories like Darnold and like Baker Mayfield and others, where sometimes you got to be a little bit of a journeyman to be able to find the right fit, and now we got Drew Lock in the game, and I think that's a very smart decision. Take Darnold out. He's already got the oblique. You're up 41-6. They wanted one more touchdown, before they got Lock in the game, and we'll see what Drew Lock can do here, see if they can end up getting a field goal or a touchdown with his presence here. And off to Jones. And Velus Jones Jr., RB3 or 4 on the depth chart in the game. So it seems like they've pretty much taken out most of the starters. And, that's probably the smart move. Obviously, a lot of these individuals have already seen, the Bo Nix, injury. And, again, Seattle doesn't want to see Darnold or anyone else get injured, especially when they got potentially the Rams coming up next weekend. And again, it's a team effort, it's not going to be just one guy, and again, when you start to see teams that are well balanced, it shows. You can feel it when you watch the games, whether you're in person or on TV, and again, you have to have that balance, offense, defense, special teams. And, every once in a while, you'll start to see teams like Denver where they're really good on defense and could maybe be a little bit better on special teams and offense, but at times they show that they can bring it, but still kind of a work in progress, but it's going to be definitely a very interesting path to the Super Bowl the rest of the way. 3rd down and 7, and they hand it off to Velus Jones Jr. It's like they're not even really trying to throw the ball at this point. They're just going to run the ball the rest of the way, and you may not even see Drew Lock throw a pass in the 4th quarter. Not really a need to do it. So, especially you don't want Lock to throw a pick 6 or have a tipped pass turn into easy points. Not like the Niners are coming back, but if you can hold the Niners to field goals and not even get a touchdown, that would be huge. But again, if they do have backups on defense, this might be the only time where the Niners might be able to get a touchdown on some of the backups on Seattle. But we'll see, once they end up punting this football off, what backups are actually in for the Seattle defense, if any. I can see the Bears, trying to hang, with their defense and their special teams, but the Rams are like Seattle. They're like in the same, category. So, again, I wish the best of luck for Chicago. I think Chicago will get more than 6 against the Rams, but I think they're going to get blown out too. And again, they were, lucky enough to get 25 on Green Bay in the 4th, which was a great story, but Matthew Stafford, the MVP, or Caleb Williams, give me a break. Caleb was lucky enough to be able to, get that victory, but he's got a long ways to go from being quote unquote a good quarterback. He is very unreliable. He doesn't have a very good throwing motion, and they do have some weapons, Colston Loveland and a few others. They have a lot of rookies on the team, but the chance of the Bears winning against the Rams is like 0. It ain't happening. Jordan James with a 5-yard run. And plus, we wouldn't even want to see the Bears win. I mean, I guess, for Seattle, that would be an easier path to the Super Bowl, but I actually want to see at least one good championship game. We already know the first one is fucked without Bo Nix. So it's either going to be Patriots and Texans. Winner of that goes to the Super Bowl. So that eliminates the AFC championship game and any kind of hype that we, to get excited about it. But, if we get Rams Seattle, with a legitimate threat of that other team of winning it all and beating you, that's going to, make some really good TV next weekend. And they got Mac Jones in the game, so they've completely given up on Brock Purdy at this point. And, he wasn't able to get you a touchdown pass at this point, and injuries have caught up. Mac Jones at times looked pretty good for the Niners while Brock Purdy was injured, but at this point, too little too late. Mac Jones scrambling to that right side, gaining about 7 yards. Tyrese Knight, the linebacker, in there for the Hawks. As you're starting to see, I'm looking at a lot of the names. A lot of backups are in for Seattle here, and that's the right decision by McDonald. 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 31. tomorrow, I assume the first game will be close, with the Texans and Patriots. That one could come down to the wire, whoever has the ball last. That one's going to be good. But then I assume the Rams Bears will be a similar score to what we're seeing here. Just an ultimate beatdown. The only difference is the Rams are going to be on the road and not at home. Nobody wants to see Bears Seahawks. Not one person on planet Earth. I mean, if we're already getting a fuck matchup with Denver and New England or Denver and Houston, I don't want to see garbage matchups in the AFC NFC Championship game. I want to see some good football at the end of the year. 1-yard pass from Mac Jones to Luke Farrell. 3rd down and 6 at the San Francisco 35. Yeah, but Nico hasn't even really been a factor for them all year. Christian Kirk can give you just the same amount of yards and touchdowns as Nico Collins and Xavier Hutchinson and, the rest of the guys they have on the squad. So, having Nico being out isn't as big of a deal as people think. Again, and he's been pretty much injured on and off the whole year. So, Nico, when he was, injury free, was great last year, but this year, kind of hit or miss. And again, if you have the best defensive line, in football, which the Texans do with Sheldon Rankins, Daniil Hunter, and Will Anderson Jr., that might be, one of the deciding factors. We just don't really know how C.J. Stroud will play on the road. And Mac Jones incomplete to Juwan Jennings. And now it's 4th down and 6 at the San Francisco 35. Well, of course, you would want to play the Bears if you're a Seahawks fan. That would be an easy win. But if you want to be the king of the castle, you got to be able to, be the best. You want to beat the best. Plus, you want to have a team being battle-tested in the NFC Championship game. If you end up being battle-tested and you end up winning that game, even if it's only by a field goal, that's going to give you the momentum going into the Super Bowl instead of just blowing out an opponent, being overconfident, and then playing the Patriots or the Texans and losing in the Super Bowl. You don't want that to happen if you're a Seattle fan. You don't want to have a Seattle-New England repeat, do you? I don't think people want that. We all know what happened in that Super Bowl. Morstead with the punt. 1st down and 10 now at the Seattle 14. Halfback toss. And Jones getting a 6-yard run, bouncing it to the outside. 2nd down and 4 at the Seattle 20. Yeah, but if that would have ended up being a touchdown, then Pete Carroll would have been labeled a genius. Everyone thought that Marshawn was going to get the ball, and then we scored it with the pass. So, I mean, it is, you can look at it different ways. If they were able to convert that play, it would have been the smartest play ever, But again, if you would have ended up running it with Marshawn, would you have gotten in to the end zone? I think most fans are thinking yes, but, and then if you would have gotten stuffed with Marshawn, at least you would have felt that was the right call, even though you would be mad, but that would have been the right call, keep handing it off to Marshawn. And if you can't get in with Marshawn, then you deserve to lose. But unfortunately, that option was taken away. And, some, coaches are playing checkers or others are playing chess. And, Pete thought he had a checkmate type of move that they would never guess, and it backfired, And again, you don't, go away from the best running back in the game, at that point in the game in the Super Bowl, even though you want to be that guy, you want to be labeled a genius. Well, it didn't work out, did it? And no gain there from Velus Jones Jr. 4th down and 1 at the Seattle 23. Take care, Minnie. Seahawks with the punt, and they have all backups in on offense and defense, so not really surprised that they weren't able to really move the football or do anything that productive. At this point, it's just garbage time for both teams. But again, I would really love Seattle to hold the Niners to 6. I don't want to see them score any more. No more field goals, no more garbage time touchdowns, just a complete ass whooping from beginning to end, 41-6 final. I mean, unless Seattle ends up getting a pick 6, that might be like the last, icing on the cake, that you could get, a pick 6 or a fumble for a touchdown. But defense wins games, defense wins championships. We have quite a few, really good defenses left, if we're really being honest, right? Seahawks defense, Rams defense, Bears defense, New England's defense, the Texan defense, the Bronco defense. So, you're starting to kind of filter out, some of these teams. And again, you got to have some kind of defense. And then obviously if your special teams and offense can be on the same level as well, then you got yourself a powerhouse. 7-yard run there by Jordan James. Josh Jobe there with the coverage. 3 takeaways, 3 turnover on downs, 13 pressures, 2 sacks, opening game, touchdown off the kickoff return to Rashid Shaheed. Just a beautiful fucking game, man. Two-yard run by Jordan James. 3rd down and 1 at the San Francisco 30. You never underestimate your opponent, though. The Rams are good enough to make the Super Bowl just like Seattle. But again, Seattle will have a little bit of an edge being at home, for sure. The crowd will definitely be a factor, and there's no doubt about that. And off to Jordan James, nice 6-yard gain. 1st down, Niners. And we're down to the last 30 seconds of the game. Yeah, but also based on how they played towards the end doesn't mean that they're going to play like that against you next week if they beat the Bears tomorrow. So got to keep that in mind. You never want to get too cocky and overconfident, especially when you got 2 teams that are very equal to each other. Obviously, the AFC side is a little different. But again, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. An absolute belt to ass moment. 41-6 final. Amazing matchup here today. And again, we were hoping that, that we'd see a little bit more of competitive flair, but again, with the injuries, you can only do so much when your best player is not even able to be out there for a majority of the snaps. So congratulations to the Seahawks and the 12s. Final score, Seattle 41, San Francisco 6. I need to go take Paisley on a walk, and hopefully my voice will be ready for tomorrow. And as long as it is, we'll be live at noon for CJ Stroud and Drake May, and then at 3:30 for Matthew Stafford and DJ Moore in the second game. And then on Monday, we got the Natty between the Hurricanes and the Hoosiers. So I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much. I hope you guys enjoyed today. And I got one question for you. We know talk sports like us. Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Okay.